How do we love difficult people? How do we love those who seem so prickly? They're like hugging a cactus. Everyone has those people in their lives that they come across that are particularly difficult. Sometimes we refer to them as EGR folks, extra grace required folks. Or we can talk about them as the cactus people or the porcupines that you have to try to be in relationship with. And you're going to run across these folks that sometimes you will have to have conversations and dealings with, and you don't know if it's even possible. I'm going to show you 7 key strategies that will help you overcome the awkwardness in that situation and begin to have successful, effective dealings with those who seem to be the most difficult people that you can encounter. If you come across these people, well, let me just say, when you come across these people, if you are equipped with these 7 strategies, then you will know how to handle this effectively with grace and be as successful as possible in those relationships. Make sure you stay to the end because that last one is very important. And the first one might even surprise you. The first key to handling difficult, prickly people is to examine your own heart. Ask yourself, why am I reacting to this person with such hurt and such offense? Why am I pulling back? Watch to see if you might have an untreated, unaddressed issue of your own that's causing you to react to that person the way that you are. And that's okay if it's partly you reacting with tenderness to a difficult person. It doesn't alleviate that person of responsibility, but it gives you the power to take a moment, take a deep breath and do a breath prayer and pray to renew yourself in those spaces, in your own heart, in your own spirit, in your own well-being, so that you can be more resilient in this conversation and be aware moving forward that this part has to do with you and you're not going to assign blame to that person and be as reactive. So the second thing is to look past the surface actions and words to see the soreness lurking beneath. If you look past the surface to see the soreness, you can look for what is causing that person to react to the situation the way that they are. A wounded animal that's cornered often bites or barks very loudly because they're trying to protect themselves. So look past that to the vulnerability, to what's beneath the barking, and find out why that person is feeling vulnerable, afraid, insecure, or wounded from their own past experiences. And that's how you can move on to that third key and respond to that person with compassion. If you demonstrate compassion, that will diffuse a lot of the anger and the self-protection that the person who's very difficult is throwing at you. The more you can come there with compassion, the more you are on a secure standing, even if that person isn't able to receive your compassion. And the fourth thing is to make sure that you monitor your own expectations in that relationship. Look at other people with an open-mindedness and hope for their potential. Go into that relationship with hope, but manage your expectations. Your hope ultimately needs to be in something that's bigger than human beings and human potential. Your hope put in Jesus is never going to lead to disappointment, but you need to manage your expectations in people. People are flawed and we make mistakes and we don't always respond well. Expecting other people to be perfect is going to always lead to disappointment. So manage your expectations and come into this situation with some understanding that people aren't perfect to begin with. And the fifth thing, to love unconditionally, but recognize the other person's limitations. Though we love them, We need to be aware that people are going to come into relationships with us or into interactions with us with their own woundedness. So if that person has limitations and they're not able to handle a deeper, more intimate relationship with you, recognize that's a limitation. Don't give them more investment of your heart, your feelings, your well-being, something that is tender about you that you're wanting to share with them. Maybe they're not equipped to handle that well. Just as somebody who has some kind of physical or neurological limitation that would cause them to stumble and break all of your valuable crystal if they were carrying your crystal or china from one room to the other, you don't give them that. You love them, you recognize they have that limitation, and you give them something that they can handle doing instead of something that is going to set both of you up for a crash, a disappointment, and a crisis. So recognize their limitations and love their heart and their spirit the way that God loves them. Number 6, set emotional and practical boundaries with other people. Know that you are separate from them, that there is a place where you stop and they begin. This will help you come into that relationship with peace. This person should not be given the power to change you, to change your well-being, to change your stability. You need to own that, own responsibility for what you think about, how you feel, what you say, and what you do. You shouldn't give that responsibility to someone else. Don't expect somebody else to make you happy, even if they're making the wrong choices and doing all the wrong things, and it triggers an initial sense of hurt and woundedness in that reaction. You can choose to take ownership over healing that and responding to that appropriately with practical steps. What you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, what you are going to do to heal and change your thinking and your feelings and your emotions, but not bringing that into a space where the boundaries are so muddied, there's no fences distinguishing your sense of self from where that other person has power and control over their sense of self and what they think about, what they choose to say, and what they do. If you have a history of being in relationship with people who have some sort of dysfunction going on, usually addictions, families, for example, would muddy this boundary because those who are actively involved in addiction, they don't take responsibility for their behavior because then they would have to change the addiction. So until they're willing to own that, it's often seen that they will push responsibility for their behavior onto other people. So if that's what you've grown up with, what you've been around for a number of years, give yourself grace for needing to recognize how to change that and set healthy boundaries moving forward. And then lastly, this is our last and most important, most powerful point of all, is to invite Jesus and visualize Jesus as being present in the midst of you and this other person in relationship with them. Anytime you're in a difficult, challenging, potentially hurtful or triggering conversation with somebody that you're in relationship with, before you even get into that conversation, that interaction with that person, invite Jesus to come be between you and that person, to dwell in your midst and buffer that space between you and fill it with his presence. And when you're there with that person, continually visualize Jesus' presence there. I hope this has been encouraging and offered you helpful tools to live your best. For coaching, speaking, or more content, visit tinayeager.com. And I look forward to sharing with you again right here on my YouTube channel for another message to help you flourish in life.